Hello, and welcome to another episode of Glorious Life on Wheels. You know, almost 2 weeks ago, I did a video on 6 hard truths about van life. And I got so many comments from people thanking me for doing that video. One woman even wrote me that she thinks it saved her life because she had never considered those things and she was going to do van life, and that made her reconsider her decision. Well, that got me to thinking. And in this video, I want to share with you some things that I think you need to do. And in fact, I am begging you to do if you are considering becoming a nomad. What I'm suggesting you do, and I know this is going to sound a little bit weird, but I'm suggesting you do kind of a test run through. Now, hear me out, and I think it's going to make sense. Let me tell you a quick little story as to why a test run through could be helpful. About a year or so ago, I had a meetup in Quartzsite, Arizona. And a woman came there and she was all excited. She had her little minivan and she was getting ready. She was going to do van life. In fact, after the meetup, she was going to go home. She was going to give her notice to her apartment manager. She was giving her 30-day notice and she was going to hit the road. Well, she stayed one day at our meetup. She didn't really come fully prepared. And that night it went down to, I think, 26 degrees in Quartzsite. She didn't have the proper clothes. She didn't have the proper bedding, so she froze. She had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, where we were camping was kind of out from the city, so there were no bathrooms. So she had to figure out how to go to the bathroom. I mean, it was just went on and on and on, trying to cook in her van. The next morning she got up. I mean, she got up really early, like 7:30, 8 o'clock. By the time we met up with her, she was already packed and she said her goodbyes. She said, "I'm leaving. This is not for me. I realize that van life is not for me. And thank God I didn't give my notice to my apartment." She got in her van and she drove back home. So that has got me to thinking that people need to do sort of a test run. This test run would ideally be for 2 weeks, but even a week could give you enough, I think, of a taste of what being a nomad is like that would let you know if you're cut out for it or not. First thing you need to do is get the vehicle that you're planning to use. And if you're planning to get a van but you don't have it yet, use whatever vehicle you have. Get together a place in there that you can sleep reasonably comfortable. Get together a cooler because you may or may not have refrigeration if you're doing this on a low budget. Or if you have a power station, you can bring that along with a refrigerator if you have that. But otherwise, bring a cooler. Also, I would suggest that you have, in fact, you need to bring along something that you would be able to cook meals on. And the last thing you need to bring is a toilet, a bucket, a can, whatever you would be using the bathroom in. But this is just a mock-up trial run, so you don't have to have everything exactly right. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what it's going to be like. The next thing you need, you have to do this, and I'll explain why it's important at the end of the video. But you need to get a notebook, and I want you to write down every single thing that you spend, every dime, every penny you spend during this week or 2 weeks. I want you to write down. Then what I want you to do is I want you to plan a trip that you're going to go at least 3 days away from home. At least a 3-day drive away from home, I mean. And on those 3 days that you drive to whatever destination you're going to, I want you to have to drive at least 5 hours per day. I mean, you can have stops, you can stop and visit things, you can stop and be a tourist and, whatever you want. But I want you to have at least 5 hours on the road each day. And you're asking, well, why? Well, because if you're a nomad, unless you're living in an urban setting or a city and boondocking there, you're going to be traveling. And you're often going to be traveling from one destination to another, and you'll be on the road for at least 5 hours. I want you to get the feel for what it'll be like to drive for, a few, 200-300 miles or more, to stop, and then the next day to have to do it again, stop, and the next day have to do it yet again. Because this is what being a nomad is like. So if this is not something you can handle, you need to understand that. And many of you who are jumping into this, especially those of you who think this is my great adventure, my last hurrah, I'm going to be free and all of this stuff. There is a lot of that, and there is an element of that, and it can be wonderful. But I want you to understand the part that can make you bone weary and just depleted of all of your strength. So I want you to plan somewhere that's that far away. One thing you might want to consider, but exercise good judgment in doing this and don't put yourself in danger or at risk. But you might want to consider going somewhere for at least one day where you're in pretty toasty climate, maybe about 90 degrees. I wouldn't go somewhere that it's way in the hundreds or something, but it will give you an idea of how to cope and how you have to adjust to that kind of climate. And what you would do you need to go out of your van for a day, maybe go into a library or maybe go somewhere else, go to a coffee shop? And then how would you cope at night when it's hot if you're in a warm climate? Most of the time people have to go to a higher elevation. But if you're somewhere and you don't have the funds to do that, what would you do? How would you cope? This might give you an idea of whether this is something you would be able to deal with. But again, exercise good judgment and don't put yourself at risk during this trial. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to each night that you're going to park somewhere, I want you to stop about an hour or so before dark or before dusk and start looking for a parking spot or somewhere to boondock. You're probably saying, well, why do I need to do that? Because you need to understand what it's like when you go somewhere, a place you've never been before, a place that may be very hostile to nomads or people living in vans, and you need to understand just how difficult it can be sometimes to find a safe place to park or somewhere that is secure for you to park and that you're not going to be up all night looking out your window, or somewhere that you're not going to be harassed or told to move or get the infamous knock on the window or on the door. So I want you to stop early enough and then start driving around. One night, I want you to find a residential area to park in, because sometimes that's all that's going to be available is maybe a residential area where you're at. So find somewhere and figure out how to park so you're not parked in front of someone's house. You're maybe parked on the side somewhere, or you're parked down where there's apartment buildings. But I want you to do that. Another night, I want you to try and park at either a truck stop or at a Walmart or at one of those kind of locations, so you can get the feel that, you have to figure out and navigate, well, if I park under this light, I might not be able to get to sleep, be too bright. But especially as a solo woman, I'm not going to be that comfortable parking way away from everything so no one can see me. So where do I park? How do I park? How do I navigate so there's not so much road noise that I can't get to sleep? I want you to have the experience of, again, what it's like to have to find a safe place to park in an area that you're unfamiliar with as you're traveling. Because again, that's part of being a nomad. The next thing I want you to do, I want you to cook at least 3 meals in your vehicle. You're probably saying, okay, why do I need to do this? Well, I'll tell you why. Because when you're on the road, you don't always have good weather. In fact, you have many days that it could be raining or storming, depending on what area of the country you're in. And you will have to cook inside your vehicle. So I want you to get at least a little taste not no pun intended there, but a little taste of what it's like to cook inside a vehicle, particularly if you're in a car, and what it's like not to have all the conveniences of having all of your cooking equipment around, or running water, a sink, or all of the things that you're used to having when you cook. And if you're in a vehicle, you won't have a lot of space, especially if you're in a car. So I want you to see what that is like. And little by little, these things are going to add up. The looking for parking, the cooking in your van, the being tired, and it's going to give you at least a little taste of what being a nomad is like. Another thing I want you to do is I want you to, in the middle of the night, I want you to get up and act like, if you don't have to, but act like you're going to the bathroom, and figure out how you would use the bathroom in your vehicle. Because if you're older like me, there's a good chance that you have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and get up. And as a solo woman especially, getting up and getting out of your van and going to find a bathroom in the middle of the night in an unknown place can be very, very unsafe. So I want you to do this in your vehicle, or at least simulate it in the middle of the night, and see what it is like not having a toilet, a regular toilet that flushes nearby, not having a bathroom. The last thing is what I said in the beginning I would save for last, and that is why you're going to keep track of every single penny you spend. Because at the end of that time, if it's 7 days or if it's 14 days or however long it is, I want you to divide that. If it's a week, divide it by 7. That will give you approximately how much you're spending each day, and then I want you to multiply that out by 30. So again, if you've been out 7 days, add all the expenses for 7 days, divide it by 7, then take that figure, multiply it by 30. That will give you your basic expenses that you would have on the road. Then add into that, now included in that will be your gas, but add into that your oil changes, add into that if you have a vehicle payment, all of your regular expenses that you normally have that are reoccurring expenses. I want you to add that up, and that will give you an idea of what your monthly budget, not including any emergencies like maybe your car breaks down or something, but that'll give you a bit of an idea what your expenses would be on the road. And you can know, is this reasonable? Am I really saving any money here? Or if that's the reason that you're going on the road. But this is, what can I say? This is the Glow simulated test run of being a nomad that just may give you a taste of something and make you say, this is for me. I love this. This is exactly what I was looking for. Or like the woman who came to my meetup, it may make you say, oh my God, thank God I did this. I hate it. It's not for me. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you have any other things you think someone should do? If you do think it's a good idea, let me know in the comments. All right. I love each and every one of you. I will make a link or put a link in the description to the video that I did on 6 hard truths about living as a nomad or van life, if you want to go back and check that video out. But meanwhile, I hope your journeys are filled with joy and blessings. And if you're considering being a nomad, I hope that you will at least try it out first so you can get a better idea if it's for you or not. See you next time.